Go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Linda Frost of the South Leitrim Group of Parishes, and I'm speaking to you today from Farnett Church, former chapel of the Lord Leitrim, and whose home many of you know now to be Lochgrin Castle Hotel. Although we cannot be together in body, we are together in spirit. These are not easy days, and we just want you to know this morning that we are praying for you and that we hope that you're doing okay. In these days, as we watch the news, we see many charts depicting the rise and the fall of the coronavirus. But I wonder if we charted our own feelings of hope today, would we be on a downward tread or an upward one? Of course, it is normal to be experiencing a whole range of feelings. But this morning, I have good news for you. Good news to hold on to, because we are a people who have hope, because God keeps his promises. Come with me for a few moments to a time nearly 2,000 years ago, where we find ourselves on a journey from despair to hope, with two apostles who are on their way from Jerusalem to Emmaus after the death of Jesus. Of course, today, I think any of us would just love the chance just to take a walk and have a good old chat with a friend along the road. But of course, at the moment, we know that that's not to be. We are told that one of the apostles was called Cleopas, and the other one is unnamed. The other could have been a friend or a family member as they were going to their home, or because the other one was unnamed, perhaps she was his wife. We are told they were heading away from Jerusalem to Emmaus. They were, if you like, going away from the place where all the hurt and disappointment had happened, to a place of safety, a place of escape, of security, a place just to get away. I'm sure we all have such places, whether they be physical places or just places in our heads that we go to try and escape the pain. And so, as they walked and talked, along the road they were joined by a stranger, who of course we know to be Jesus, but they didn't recognise him. I don't know about you, but perhaps you've been in a time where you've been in a situation of trauma or grief. Something has shaken you to the core, and someone comes up to greet you. And yes, you don't recognise them, you can't think who they are, you don't really see them. And for the apostles, anyway, who expected a dead man to come walking alongside of them? And so this stranger Jesus sees they are sad. In one version of the Bible it says, sadness was written across their faces. He asked them, "What are you talking about?" And they replied, "Are you the only one who hasn't heard what's going on?" It's a bit like someone saying to us, "What coronavirus?" And here Jesus gives us a wonderful example on the importance of helping by listening. He doesn't jump in and say, "Hey folks, look, it's me. Rejoice, be happy, snap out of it." He knows that on this journey from despair to hope, that they to process all they have gone through, to talk about it. So he just says, what things? And so the apostles poured out their hearts to him who they thought was a stranger. Sometimes talking to a stranger is easier. I remember a few years back, my sister and I were on holiday in Turkey. And we inquired at the tourist office whether if we went on the bus tour to Ephesus, that it was suitable for my sister who was in a wheelchair. Well, we were assured it was. In fact, we were assured a few times, yes, it's fine, go ahead, enjoy the trip. Well, if any of you have been to Ephesus, you will know that when we arrived, we got off the bus and we entered the site, my sister in her wheelchair, and I looked. There we were faced with cobbled streets, not a straight or smooth surface as to be seen, and a very steep hill. Not good at all for my amateur driving wheelchair abilities. My face obviously showed my dismay, and a kind man who was also on our bus tour came and he took hold of the wheelchair handles and he said, "Would you like me to push?" Well, I with great relief thanked him. And for the rest of the time during the tour, as he pushed her around, he poured his heart out to us, as he had just lost his mother, who he used to push in the wheelchair. We were strangers, and he needed to talk. We all need to talk, especially in these days. I encourage you to phone each other, phone your rector, phone a helpline. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger. And so the apostles pour out their story, a story of a prophet and a Messiah who they had pinned their hopes on to save them from the Romans. And then how the religious leaders had again dashed their hopes when they handed Jesus over to be crucified. And with his death, hope died. Perhaps you have had your hopes dashed by circumstances, by religious leaders. Perhaps even God has disappointed you because he didn't do what you thought he should do. The two apostles continued. And now this morning there have been rumours that the tomb was empty. We don't know what that was about or where his body has gone, and this has just thrown us into more turmoil. In these days we can hear a lot of conflicting evidence on the news. Facts, figures, scams. It can bring uncertainty and disquiet into our heart. What are we to believe? So after they had unburdened their hearts, Jesus said, "I'm sorry for your troubles." No, he said, "You foolish people." Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure if initially we would think that was the kindest thing to say. And yet, when I thought about it, don't we all need someone who lovingly takes us to task sometimes? Or maybe it's just me. When we get into that downward spiral of hopelessness, we start thinking negatively and things get out of perspective. We need someone to come along and say, stop. Or in the words of Jesus, you're foolish people. Your thinking has got out of hand. It's not true. Here's the truth. And so Jesus took them back to the truth of the Old Testament. The truth that showed God had a plan. A God who loved his people. A God who is faithful and trustworthy. A God who said that he was going to send the greatest frontline worker ever. One who would lay down his life for his people and save them by defeating the virus of sin and death, that they may know his life and his hope. And so as they listened to the foundational truth that God keeps his promises, their hearts burned within them. Hope is rising. In these uncertain days, let us read and speak God's word of truth. I would encourage you to read Isaiah 43. It's one of the other readings for today. And let God speak to you through it. And so, with hope rising, they arrived at the house. And Jesus, who never imposes himself on anyone, made to continue on. But they made the choice to invite him in. Stay with us. Oh, how we would love to say those words again in these days, to friends and families. And as time goes on, it seems to get harder not to have that interaction, especially, I know, for those of you who are cocooned alone. But we can be like the apostles and say, Jesus, come into my life, come into my home, come into my situation and stay with me. And so Jesus went in and he stayed with them. And as he sat at table, he takes, he blesses, he breaks, and he gives the bread. Just as he had done in the feeding of the 4,000 and the 5,000. Just as he had done at that Last Supper, with the words, remember me. And they remembered, and their hearts once again were filled full of hope. Hope that had been lost at the cross had been made new through the hope of the resurrection. A new day had dawned, for Christ was alive. God had kept his promises. Today, as I conclude, we comfort our hearts with that Easter hope. An Easter hope which is ongoing, for it is hope for today and hope for tomorrow. The God who keeps his promises comes through his Son to meet us on the road of our lives, to listen to us, to speak truth and hope to us. And as we invite him to stay with us, he reveals himself to us. Wherever you are today, whatever your circumstance, remember him. For in him we have hope. For he is the God who keeps his promises to each and every one.